Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new NVIDIA daily update video. So today, as per usual, let's talk about NVIDIA stock. Let's talk about what happened today on a pretty damn aggressive day for NVIDIA, up about 5% on a day. I'll be honest, I did not expect it to be this bullish essentially. So let's go over it, let's talk about it, and let's see what we can make of it as we head into tomorrow, which is going to be, of course, a very, very important day. Of course, that being, well, NVIDIA earnings. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed, please don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my analysis, technical analysis, etc., I do have a YouTube membership down below where I share my thoughts every single day, mainly on Tesla stock, sometimes other stocks as well. Today, for instance, Pepsi. Or for $5 a month, you get access to all of that, plus NVIDIA daily updates as well. But jumping into it, NVIDIA, like I said, closing at $147 per share, almost 5% on the day, which is going to be a phenomenal day. Now, I'll be completely honest, I didn't think it'll go up this high. I really thought it would stall. I thought best case scenario was like 145 to 146, went a little bit higher than what I expected. So obviously very, very bullish, but unfortunately it doesn't mean a whole lot right now, mainly because, well, I mean, we have earnings tomorrow. That's really just all it comes down to, right? Whether or not NVIDIA makes its way back up and continues way higher, or it makes its way back down lower and potentially even to the bottom of this rising wedge that we're in, which will bring NVIDIA down to the 130s roughly, potentially as early as tomorrow. If I see 130, by the way, tomorrow after hours, I'm most likely buying. But I did sell too early. I'm pretty upset about that. So let's just kind of reiterate what even happened with NVIDIA. So yesterday, right? Yesterday was when we had this massive sell-off on the 1 hour. Pretty much this was the first candle in the morning. Massive sell-off, went into extreme oversold territories on the bands. And that's where I bought. I bought almost at the bottom of this candle. To be fair, I sold way too early. But nonetheless, still made some decent profit on that. Now, NVIDIA continued rising up pretty aggressively, and I thought maybe, just maybe, it'll get rejected right around here because that's where the 1 hour market bias sat, right? But instead, what did it do? It pretty much went from one end to the opposite end of the bands. I guess this is why I should never distrust these bands. They're pretty damn powerful. So sometimes it just be like that, right? But going back to the daily chart, let's go back to the daily chart. You can see also I had that market bias on the daily time frame, which we bounced off of before, had a nice little rally, and now we came right back into it, bounced, obviously so far so good, and we had a nice little rally once again. So now it really comes down to earnings. Honestly, I don't think there's much to update. I really don't think it matters what the hell happens tomorrow. Like, really, who cares what happens tomorrow? Pretty irrelevant in my opinion. But I will say the fact that we're running up into earnings makes me a little bit skeptical, right? I'm a little bit hesitant about that, right? I'm not a huge fan when stocks run into earnings pretty aggressively. Despite this initial sell-off that was clearly the fake out, now we're running aggressively into earnings. Can't say I'm a huge fan of that, right? It does make me a little bit more skeptical, but it doesn't really matter ultimately, because what really matters is what the hell happens on earnings? How does the market even react? Because don't forget, a good earnings can still have a bad reaction from the market and vice versa. There's a lot of different ways the market can react to it. And that's why I'm not going to pretend like I'm going to know what it's going to happen. I'm not going to pretend like I know how the market's going to react to earnings, because I don't, and nobody does, not even Jensen himself probably. So we'll just have to wait. We'll have to wait to see how it goes. We'll have to wait to see what plays out. But in my opinion, if it's a good earnings and it reacts positively, and let's say we stay around this general vicinity tomorrow before earnings actually happens, I think NVIDIA can easily break this high. And honestly, at the very least, come up to the mid 150s, potentially even breaking out of this rising wedge, which will be obviously very bullish. Now, if earnings doesn't go very well, and earnings, happens to be a sell the news event or whatever the case may be for whatever reason, then I expect NVIDIA to, well, naturally make its way back down. At the very least, in my opinion, back to the market bias, which will be sitting around that mid-ish 130s to potentially even as low as about 130 itself, where it pretty much needs to hold, because that is where we have that rising trend line roughly sitting, right, give or take around that 130s range. But I also don't want it to lose 130, because that's where we have that obvious, very obvious recent swing low. Though you can easily make the argument, the fact that maybe this was that recent swing low and we are setting a fresh lower high here into potentially a fresh lower low, and that could start the potential trend of a bearish trend. Now, again, let's not jump to conclusions. Let's not start thinking things that aren't there just yet. But if earnings is a bad news event or whatever, I expect the first two levels again being about the mid to high 130s, followed by pretty much roughly around 130 itself. And that's really all she wrote. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter what happens tomorrow. Really just comes down to earnings. BX trenders, by the way, still not bullish. MACD still actually flipped bearish, surprisingly. And we also have the stochastic still leading bearish despite today's massive move up. So the indicators are not buying this move. Clearly, they're skeptical about this move up, is a better way to put it. They're not fully buying into this move. And I think the market really just comes down to what happens on this earnings. Now, the market did recover pretty decently today, actually, right? For instance, QQQ did recover back above that 21 EMA. Usually when this is the case, usually when it breaks down below and recovers back above it, pretty much the way it did today, it does pretty well for itself moving forward, right? It does pretty well for itself moving forward indeed. So let's see if that actually happens again, and let's see if history repeats itself roughly. And I think the catalyst to potentially make or break the market here will be NVIDIA earnings and also how the market reacts. Let's take a look at options flow really quickly to see if we can maybe get at least any indication as to what we can expect from the earnings. And pretty mixed, even towards the end of the day, pretty mixed options flow. You can see here 1.2 million call did come in, of course, for 2026 though, but it is 200 strike, very out of the money, but pretty mixed flow. The bulls are still dominating the bears as per usual, but not as one-sided as maybe you would want to see moving into something like an earnings play. Now, confirmed options flow, NVIDIA is towards the top at 53 million. But in terms of the options flow that came in pretty much towards the end of the day, I have to say, not the most convincing bullish flow. It's not bearish, but not super bullish convincing. So maybe people don't even know what the hell's going to happen either. This is, in my opinion, at least what I'll be doing, is wait and see type scenario. I'm not rushing into it. I'm not, playing earnings. I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to be sitting back. I'm going to let the show kind of, show do its thing. And I want to go ahead and play off of that after the earnings fiesta essentially is complete. No reason to gamble, in my opinion, of course. But all that being said and done, that's pretty much the main thing I'm seeing right now. And that's pretty much the main thing I'm eyeballing. So all that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed, please don't forget to hit that like button and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.